Hey there everyone, my son asked me to make him this perpetual calendar and I thought I'd show you how I did it. There are two big blocks on top for showing the day of the month, and underneath it are three skinny blocks which are labeled with the different months of the year. And the whole thing fits into this simple cherry wood stand. So I have this piece of cherry. It is 29 inches long and 4.5 inches wide, and that's certainly enough to get the blocks. I don't know, I might be able to get the entire calendar out of this. Now I need 2-inch cubes for the day blocks, but I don't have 2-inch thick cherry. So I first had to cut off a piece of the cherry and rip it down to a bit over 2 inches in width. And then I would cut it in thirds so that I could glue it up into a blank that was thick enough to provide 2 cubes that were each 2 inches in all dimensions. So while the big blocks are glued and drying, I will take this and we'll rip this down to make the day blocks. The month blocks need to be about 2/3 of an inch in cross section so that 3 of them can fit neatly under the day blocks. I have a 14-inch piece left, and I need a piece that is 6 inches by 4 inches for the base, and that should leave me just enough to make the wall that goes around the calendar blocks. The base is full thickness, but I resawed the rest in half as the wall doesn't need to be thick at all. And so then here I'm planing it down to make it smooth after resawing. So this is my blank where I need to get 2-inch cubes out of. This is getting a little bit small to safely put through the fence on my table saw, or at least it's a little bit small for my comfort level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a stop block here on my crosscut sled at the 2-inch mark, and I will do all the cuts there, and hopefully that should work just fine. Okay, so here we are so far. This piece is going to be the base. These are the two day blocks that I just cut out on the saw. This is going to give us the months, and I have not cut this into strips yet because I want to get it to fit. There will be 3 of these that fit under the blocks. And these pieces are going to be the back and the sides. So they're going to, okay. Off to the saw. After ripping to width, I cut out the 3 pieces I needed to make the wall. Off camera, I also cut the top corners off of the 2 side pieces and then sanded it all smooth. Of course, a butt joint is not particularly strong. However, A, this is going to be a very light-duty project, and B, this is going to be glued down like that, and that's going to be a long grain joint. That's going to be a long grain joint, which should be pretty strong. Portable router table. I used the router table to make a simple decorative cove on the 3 sides of the base, the front and the 2 sides. We take this out of the clamps, and then we can glue it into position here. And this is a pretty heavy clamp. That's a ridiculous amount of clamping pressure. I'm not tightening these things tight. I'm just trying to get the coverage over the whole thing. So for the numbers on the blocks, we're going to use the X carve to carve them in. And of course, watching the CNC machine is not really exciting, so I'm not really going to have much of that in the video. I've got a little L-shaped clamp here where I can just clamp each block, and I just have to do one number after the other. Now this step is of course strictly optional. You could just paint the numbers on or stencil them or use some other non-CNC method. Now unfortunately the writing on the month blocks was just too small for my X-carve. I did not have a bit that was small enough that could clearly write it. I tried, so I could not carve them as I did this. So for the month blocks, I used the toner transfer method where you print backwards with the laser printer and then use acetone to transfer that, and that worked fairly well. For finishing, I'm going to run out to the garage and hit them with a bit of lacquer. I can't do that in here because I don't have the ventilation. And so there's the finished product, and I think it turned out great. So how does this work? The way it works is you have the numbers written on these blocks, the numbers of the day. So as you know, we are the 27th today, so it's the 27th. And then tomorrow is going to be the 28th, so you would just turn the block, and there's the 28th, and so on and so forth. Well, now there are 6 sides to a block, so that gives you 12 total faces with the 2 blocks, and we count with 10 digits, 1 through 10, and so on and so forth. Well, so how do you do this with the numbers? Well, the way it works is on the one block, you have 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5. And then on the next block, you have 6, 7, 8, and then you go back to the 6, and you turn it over for the 9. And then you also need 1, 2, and 0. Well, why do you need 1, 2, and 0 on both blocks? That's because you need to be able to do 13, 14, 15, and 16. So for any number on this block, for example, the 3, you need a 1 on the other block, so you can make 13. And for any number on this block, which is the 7 and the 8 and the 9, you need a 1 and a 2 on this block, so you can have the 29th or the 28th. And I wanted to try to find a way where you could just have a blank on one of the blocks, so that you could just have, blank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but we just don't have enough faces, because either you need a 0 on both blocks, you need the 1 and the 2 on both blocks, and then, using the 6 twice, we're already at our limit. There's just not enough other spaces in order to do that. So you have to live with, 0, 7 for the 7th. So underneath the number blocks, you have the month blocks. And here there are 3 skinny blocks, so there's 4 sides, and you can have a month written on each. And 3 times 4 is 12, and there are 12 months in the year. So that works great. So that brings us to the end of this project. As always, I'd like to thank you for coming by and spending some time in my shop. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned something that maybe you can try in your shop, and we look forward to seeing you next time. What next?